Good morning. So they fell in love. I called it. I knew that was gonna happen. I felt the tension, you guys. You have to understand. I was in the book in that moment with them. I felt the tension. And what would Joshua do when he finds out? Because I'm pretty sure the mother already knows, right? But what would Joshua do? That's what I'm curious about. With that being said, let's get into chapter 18. Oyaki led a busy life, with teaching and organizing the schools, and now as a clerk of the new Kiyama, with its meeting and ceremonies, he seemed to live hour to hour in action. He was now known all over the ridges. Children knew him and hailed him as our teacher. Old men and women also called him the teacher. He was a man who impregnated with the magic of the white man. Jesus Christ, I thought we had like skipped, and now we went through an insane time skip, but he was a man who, impregnated with the magic of the white man, would infuse the tribe with wisdom and strength, giving it a new life. Ryaki himself was much more interested in teaching and handling the children than in organization and management of the Kiyama. Yet, sometimes, moments of patriotism and high ideal would come to him, and then he would feel elated and would be ready to do anything for the people. The day of the gathering of parents from all over the ridges was approaching. Oyaki wanted to press for more schools, although he did not know where he would get the teachers. He thought he might be able to persuade some to come from Syriana. Otherwise, he himself would go to Nairobi and try to get some. Another thing was coming into his mind. Every day he was becoming convinced of the need of unity between Kamu and Makuyu. The ancient rivalry would cripple his effort in education. He also wanted a reconciliation between Joshua's follower and the other. The gulf between them was widening, and Oyaki wanted to be the instrument of their coming together. A word from him in the big the word from him a word from him I'm sorry a word from him in the coming meeting might be a big start. Now was the time to show his stand. This was not a plan but a conviction. It had come like a temptation, at first a faint echo, then becoming a distant possibility, and now a need. Would this not be a risk to his growing popularity? Yet he would try, and he was rather pleased to think that Nyambura might hear of it and think well of him. The whole grass compound was full of women and men from every corner of the country. Some came to hear the report of the progress of their children, others came to see the famous Mario Shawnee School, but others come to see the teacher. They had heard of this young man but had never seen him. This was a chance not to be missed. The teacher, they whispered, from hill to hill, and the name came to signify only one man, Oyaki. So his fame grew from ridge up to ridge and spread like a fire in dry bush. Everyone saw him as a reincarnation of that former dignity and purity now lost. The school was neat, and the people saw everything in it, the outcome of their own effort, the symbol of their defiance of foreign ways. They went round the school admiring the well-made building. Here and there on the compound were a little flower garden whose general immaculate look was talk of all. The parents saw this as the fruits of their labor, their sweat and patience. Their children could speak a foreign language, could actually read and write, and this had been done in spite of Syriana's stern action in refusing to admit the children of those who will not abandon the ancient rites. Oyaki, along with his colleague, was most attentive. He mixed with the people and took them to various places, outlining his plans, obviously campaigning for his scheme before the real test came. People admired him. They liked the way he so freely mingled and the way he talked. He had a word for everyone and a smile for all. He pleased many, but not everybody. At such moments, jealousy and ill will are bound to work. There are always people that are going to wish you harm, even if you do good, no matter what. There are just people like that. That's to be expected. But I just hope that it doesn't affect Wayaki in like a really bad, terrible way. And hopefully, he keeps on being the leader that he wants to be. Gabonye did not like it. That's the guy that hates him. I'm starting to hate him for no reason as well. Gabonye did not like it. He himself had labored for the tribe. He had led the breakaway movement and was responsible for the starting of the people's own school. And was he not led in every field? Gabonye saw Wayaki as an upstart, a good-for-nothing fellow, a boy with rather silly ideas. He was a mere boy in the face of someone like Gabonye, whose age and experience entitled him to greater attention. As it was, the state of things was unnatural. Perhaps Gabonye would not have been so hostile had the young man's place been taken by Kamo, his own son. Kamo was good a teacher as anyone else, and he was certainly older than Wayaki. He would therefore have been in a better position to lead. Nobody could guess the extent of which Gabonye resented the rise of Wayaki. Alone among the people of Gabonye knew of the prophecy. That last sentence sounded weird. 1 second. Alone among the people, Gabonye knew of the prophecy. He feared Wayaki might be the sent one, and he hated this. The meeting was scheduled to begin early, but old men always took their time, so the meeting actually started in the afternoon. Wayaki opened the proceeding amid great silence. Though his voice was calm, his heart beat inside him. He feared the number of eyes in front of him. After the first few words, he announced that the children would go sing some song of welcome. Wayaki had not made up the songs. He had first been taught them in Sirenia, Baruba from a century beyond. But to the parents and the teacher who gathered there, that day there was something new, something that strange. It stirred their heart and said what they felt. This is the part where I'm guessing that's where the song starts. I'm going to read it. It looks like a sonnet, like a poem. It goes something along the lines of, Father, Mother, provide me with pen and slate. I want to learn. Land is gone. Cattle and sheep are not there anymore. What's left? Learning. Father, if you had many cattle and sheep, I would ask for a spear and shield. But now, I do not want a spear. I do not want a shield. I want this shield and spear of learning. And that's it. That's the song. These simple words made some shed tears. Father resolved to work. They would straighten themselves. The white man was slowly encroaching on people's land. He had corrupted the ways of the tribe. Things will now change. It may take years, but far into the unknown future, things would become different. A savior had come. He had opened the eyes of the people. He had awakened the sleeping lions. They will now roar to victory. The children were getting learning. That's literally what it sounds like. The children were getting learning. And still their voices rose higher and higher. I guess this is another part of the song. It goes something like, Father, the war of shields and spear is now ended. What is left? The battle of wits, the battle of the mind. We all want to learn. That's it. Old men and women strained their ears to catch the sweet words. Their hands pressed hard on their hearts or their chins. Gabonye was writing within, his heart and soul burned with anger. The boy was making a favorable impression while he meant to denounce him. The boy had been seen in the church of Joshua and had been seen standing with Joshua's daughter. Gabonye had meant to shame the boy before the crowd, but the children sang song voicing the cry of many, speaking aloud the silent cry of generation. Everywhere, the generation that filled their end is near unless they were changed. Were they mourning for the dead glowing? Were they sorrowing over the tribe's destruction, or were they hailing the changes that had yet to come? Sorrow or yearning was in their eyes, and they could see this reflected in the glittering eyes of the Savior. The children finished singing and sat. Everywhere strange silence reigned. Then from every corner the cry was taken up, and all sang with one accord. I'm not gonna sing. I'm not gonna read the last part because I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna mess it up. So, yeah. It's on page 91 of the book. If you're interested and want to look at it, feel free to. Let's get back to reading. When Wayaki began to speak again, he felt happy. This was the moment to push his plan through. He spoke quietly, clearly, the elevation of speaking to a large crowd making him feel light. He briefly outlined his plan for Moriyoshi. That's the name of the school. The rotting roof needed more tin, the children needed desks, pencil, paper, and then many more schools had to be built. More teachers had to be employed. He sat down, fearing that he had not made his point clear, but the applause that greeted him left him with no doubt about the reception of the sword speech. Yeah, I'm liking this. A moment too soon, Kaboni was on his feet. He did not smile, but looked defiantly around him. The battle was on. He was old, but his voice was good and steady. Besides, he knew his audience well and knew what to appeal to. He would speak in proverbs and riddles, and nothing could appeal more to the elders who still appreciated subtle proverbs and witty riddles. Kaboni again knew his limits. He did not want to bring too many issues together, so he decided to leave Joshua affair and come to it later as a final blow. He reminded them of the poverty of the land. The dry month had left the people with nothing to eat, and the expected harvest would not yield much. He touched on the land taken by the white man. He talked of the new taxes being imposed on the people by the government post now in their midst. And instead of Wayaki leading people against these more immediate ills, he was talking of more building. Were people going to be burdened with more buildings? With more teachers? And was the white man's education really necessary? Surely there was another way out. It was better to drive away the white man from the hills altogether. Were the people afraid? Were no warriors left in the tribe? He, Kaboni, would lead them. That was why he had formed the new Kiyama. He would rid the country of the influence of white men. He would restore the purity of the tribe and its wisdom. Or do you think the education of a tribe, the education and wisdom which you all receive in any way below that of the white man? He challenged the people present, appealing to their pride, to their manhood in them, and then to their loyalty to the soil. I'm starting to really hate this guy. This old man, Kaboni, whatever, I don't even care if I'm pronouncing his name right. There are always people like that, right? Like me, for example, I'm from Africa, if you couldn't tell for the accent. And there are some elders that are just out of their mind. They refuse to change. They always oppose everything and everyone. Everyone dislikes them. But since they're elders and we respect our elders, we kind of have to listen to them, right? And he is doing that exact same thing. I hate his guts with passion. Seriously, just die already. No, but is he actually gonna die? I don't know. I'm just saying that. But it would be great if he was out of the picture, you know. I understand that he wants to preserve the land, but dude, it's the same thing with technology, right? Older people are afraid of technology because they're afraid of changes. Same thing with Kaboni. He's afraid of changes. He wants to be at the top, to go with the old ways. And he needs to change. That's what I'm going to say about the old man, and I hope he disappears from the story soon. Let's get back to reading, shall we? Do not be led by a youth. Did the tail ever lead the head? The child, the father, or the cubs of the lion? A few people applauded, and then there was silence. Kaboni too was stirred something in their heart. Soon they began to talk. Some saw a lot of truth in what Kaboni had said. They knew they were not cowards, and surely it was easier to drive away the white men than return to all ways. But others, especially the young people, were on Wayaki's side. Exactly what I'm trying to say. The old people, I'm going to use an analogy here. The old people, right, dislike technology. They're pushing away. They said, no, But the younger generation, like in technology, they want change, right? So it's like modern days issue that was set in, I don't know when this book was written, I'm sorry, but it's similar problem, right? But yeah, young people were on Wayaki's side. Wayaki himself was hurt. Goboni had touched a sore spot, the question of youth. When Wayaki stood up again, the old defiant came back. The courage that had made him famous among the boys of Rica was now with him. At first, he just looked at the people and held them with his eyes. Then he opened his mouth and began to speak, and his voice was like the voice of his father. No, it was like the voice of a great Kikuyu of old. Here again was the Savior, the one whose word touched the soul of the people. People listened, and their heart moved with the vibration of his voice, and he, like a shepherd speaking to his flock, avoided any words that might be insulting. In any case, how could he repudiate Kaboni's argument? Bayaki told them that he was their son. They all were his parents. He did not want to lead. The elders were there to guide and lead the youth, and the youth had to listen. He had to be led in the path of the wisdom. He, Wayaki, would listen. All he wanted was to serve the ridges, to serve the hills. They could not stand aloof. They could never now remain isolated unless the people heeded his word and plans. The ridges would lose their former dignity and would be left a distance behind by the country beyond. So he spoke on, pointing the importance of learning and acquiring the wisdom that one could get. People wanted him to go on telling them the sweet words of wisdom. When he sat down, people stood as if one of the voice shouted, the teacher, we want the teacher. And some shouted, our children must learn, show us the way, we will follow. What more would Wayaki want? He felt elated with gratitude and happiness. Thereafter, every elder and teacher who spoke added nothing but praise for the teacher. An inner ridge committee was elected to look after the education of all and see the building of new school in the country. Kaboni was not on it. Kamo, my son. Yes, father, my legs, they shake. Why, are you ill, father? Yes. No, yet my legs, they grow weak. Take my staff and lead me home. And those who were around Sakaboni led home by his son, one of Wayaki's teacher, and soon with a smile, everybody knew that Kaboni was ill. He was not ill. He was full of fury to suffer public defeat, a public humiliation. No, it could not be. It must not be. I could kill him. Kill who, father? They were not standing on the hill. Kaboni looked at his son. You are a worthless man, he burst out. Are you my son? Couldn't you have supplemented him a long time ago? Couldn't you have supplanted him a long time ago? What has he that you have not? Kamo did not answer. He too had bitter thoughts. Would he and his father always suffer under the hands of Wayaki? Within a few months, the face of the school changed. More schools were pulled on the number of other rich. Wayaki fame spread. The elder trusted him. They talked about him in their homes and in fields. Even Kaboni seemed resigned to the young man's leadership. It was faith, unquestioning, almost smothering, if one was aware of it. But he was their leader, and they knew that he would never let them down. He was a match for the white men, these men who had wanted to annihilate Gikuyu and Mumbi. The tribe would now conquer, triumphing over the missionaries, the traders, the government, and all those who had come to imitate the strangers. If Wayaki had been fully aware of this faith in him, he might have feared, but he was not. The idea of education had now come to him like a demon, urging him to go on more, do more, even when later he was forced by the Kiyama in the extravagant enthusiasm to take enough of religion to the purity and togetherness of the tribe. He did not stop to analyze if any danger lurked in such a commitment. Kaboni did not exist. He saw only schools everywhere, and the thirst that burned the throat of so many children who looked up to him for the quenching water. And he wanted to fill all who get this water. He even wanted Joshua and his followers to come and join him with him. Education was life. Let it come. And with a fleeting feeling of guilt, he remembered that he had forgotten to preach reconciliation. I mean, I got what I wanted, right? Koboni is getting out of the picture slowly, just like, shoo, we don't need you. But what about Kamo? In case you don't know, Kamo is the son of Koboni. Why are you resenting him? Why are you resenting Wayaki? Okay, he's helping the rich, he's helping the tribe get to a better place because education is crucial. Everyone deserves an education. Just let it happen, okay? And with education will come potential for improvement by the younger generation. Just let it happen, let everyone be happy, and let's move on. God, stubborn. Let's continue with chapter 19. Actually, matter of fact, let's pause here. Let's all drink something because my throat is getting dry. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Just gotta quench my thirst. Let's get moving. Chapter 19. All his life, Joshua had tried to win more and more people to Christ. He was a man who, even at his age, had tremendous energy, and he had thought that he was succeeding. Indeed, at first, he had succeeded. Many had come to him. Many had been baptized and had not been responsible for persuading elders to take their son to Cyrene to hear Christ's words and get the white man's leading. But now the fate seemed to be working against him. Many of those who had enthusiastically gone to him had slipped back to their old custom and rituals. Many had gone back to take a second bride. No Joshua saw anything intrinsically wrong in having a second bride. In fact, he had always been puzzled by the fact that men of the Old Testament who used to work with God and angels had more than one wife. But the man and the mission had said this was a sin, and so a sin it had to be. Joshua was not prepared to question what he knew to be God-inspired assertion of the white man's. After all, the white man had brought Christ into the country. What worried Joshua was not just that many people had turned to the cursed things of the tribe, like circumcision. He had even been able to come to triumph over Methoni's rebellion. The rise of Wayaki as a young, intelligent leader of the tribe was a menace. Now that many schools had been built through the efforts of Wayaki, more of his ships might go to join Wayaki's flock out of sheer necessity. Fearing this, Joshua got the men on the mission to lead them to the other faithful ones, build a school or two where children could learn before they went to Cyrene. The two schools, one in Mukuyu and the other one in Ingenia, were making good progress. In time, they would form a stronger challenge to Wayaki. The large gathering at Kamo had surprised many. It had made Joshua realize more than he had ever done before that the force of Satan was strong. Really, dude? Since that meeting, entry into Camino, the stronghold of the devil seemed vital. The soldier of Christ had nothing to fear, so a meeting of Joshua's followers and nobody else who wanted was arranged in Camino. The rally was held on a Sunday. Many Christians from the neighborhood hills attended. Some came from very far, but news of the meeting had been well spread. They sang, praised, and prayed. Joshua preached with so much vigor and energy that many later said that he had been speaking with the tongue of angels. Others said that the angels of the Lord had appeared unto him, whilst the other thought it was Mary who had spoken to him. A few people were converted. That was a good beginning. For the first time in Camino, there was a group of Joshua's men. No doubt, more would follow. This was a challenge to the elders and those who upheld the tribal institution. Wayaki saw the meeting. He saw the council gather and praised. All things was visible from his hut, whose door faced the place. Wayaki could not tell him his own feeling concerning the open challenge. Maybe he was indifferent. After all, he himself loved the Christian teaching, the elements of love and sacrifice agreed with him in his own temperaments. The suffering of Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane and his agony on the tree had always moved him, but he did not want to betray the tribe, yet he had not actually betrayed it. He had wanted to bridge the gulf between Joshua and the other. For what, he had not stopped to answer that question. The feeling that this was, in a way, his mission had come to him before the meeting that marked the height of his glory, and he had been training himself for this mission, and the communal refueled and bring back the unity of the tribe. Yet, when the appropriate moment came, he had failed. He had become intoxicated with wonder, anger, and surprise, lost himself. The moment had come, the moment had passed. Had he remained calm, he would have spoken outright for reconciliation another time, next time. Ryaki always told himself when these moments of self-blame came, and in a way he was glad. Education was really his mission. This was his passion. He needed help and cooperation from all. He even formed... Did I read this right? This was his passion. He needed help and cooperation from all. He even formed... I'm sorry. This was his passion. Why do I keep on getting this wrong? I don't get it. This was his passion. He needed help and cooperation from all, even from Joshua and Kaboni. They called him a savior. His own father had talked of a Messiah to come. Whom was the Messiah coming to save? From what and where would he lead the people? Although Ryaki did not stop to get clear answer to these questions, he increasingly saw himself as the one who would lead the tribe to the light. Education was the light of the country. That was what the people wanted. Education, schools, education. He did not see any connection between what his education mission and what Kiyama was doing. He just wanted all people to get learning, and unity was the answer. But sometimes he was afraid. Joshua and his followers were now completely identified with the white man. And now, with this outright boldness of Joshua, this naked challenge, he could not tell what would happen. What would the Kiyama do? He had resigned from the Kiyama, and he did not know what the inner circle under the leadership of Kaboni would be up to. In a way, he controlled the secrets of the hills. Kamo had taken Ryaki's place. His name, in fact, been suggested by Ryaki. Was this an act of appeasement? Ryaki did not know. All he wanted was to concentrate his attention and energy to the mission he had undertaken. Kiyama could look to the purity of the tribe. Again, Ryaki watched and saw the Christian gathering. He was much interested in human spectacle. A thought came to him. Nyambura might be there. That's the woman who he fell in love with. His heart beat a little. He always felt excited at the thought of seeing her. The more he thought of her, the more he knew that he loved her. This was strange for Ryaki. He had never shown much interest in women. His whole idea of living and pursue in life being concentrated on the service to the tribe. Though they met rarely, each time he was with her, he wanted to tell. But he thought that she would turn on him and shame him to himself. No, he could never risk it. There was a gulf between them, and he always felt foolish while he stood in front of her. Ryaki left his hut and went out, taking the opposite direction, leading away from the meeting place. After a distance, he turned to the left and began walking toward Honya River. A group of people going toward Kamino passed near him and went on. They were going to the meeting. Again, He turned to the left and began walking along the river. The sun was not very high in the sky. The shadows of trees were long and crossed on one another. And the river flowed on. Wayaki moved slowly, yet as if he were going to a definite place. Suddenly he stopped short. His heart gave two quick beats. He had seen Nyambura. Nyambura was not happy. Each day that she spent in her father's home, seemed a greater weight added on to her. Her heart was restless, and she knew that nothing at home would satisfy her. Every day she thought more and more of Wayaki, her happy moment being those when she was with him. She was proud of his fame, and at times she felt as if she shared it. She nursed this in her heart and clung to it as if the fame were hers. Yet his name, like Mathonius, was never mentioned in her home. But she always longed to see him, to hear his voice. They had met on a few occasions and always by accident. Why could she not feel free to meet him anywhere, free to go out and see him? Day by day she became wary of Joshua's brand of religion. Was she too becoming a rebel? No, she would not do as her sister had done. She knew, however, that she had a God. She knew, however, that she had to have a God who would give her a fulfillment of life, a God who would still her restless soul. So she clung to Christ because he had died on the tree. Love for all people, blazing from his side. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Christ did die on a cross, right? But crosses are made of wood. I guess you could say that. And since wood comes from trees, you could say that he died on a tree. I can see where it's coming from. I can see it. But it's just like throwing me off a bit. She wished he could be near her so that she might wash and dress his wound. She envied Mary, the Mary who had anointed the feet of Christ with oil. She prayed to him, he must not leave her. Even this did not always satisfy her, and she hungered for somebody human to talk to, somebody whom she could actually touch and feel, and not a Christ who died many years ago. A Christ who could only talk to her in the spirit. Only she could meet Wayaki more often. If they don't get married by the end of this book, I'm burning this book. I'm just playing. I'm just playing, but I really want them to be together. Is that too much to ask? Is that too much to ask? I just want a happy ending. I don't want La La Land to happen again. If you haven't watched La La Land, you should watch it. You should watch it. It will break your heart. If only he could stay near her, then Christ would have a bigger meaning of life. But Wayaki was becoming important, and he was on the other side. Perhaps they would remain like that, a big, deep valley separating them. Nyambura knew then that she could never be saved by Christ. That a Christ who died could only be meaningful if Wayaki was there for her to touch, for her to feel and talk to. She could only be saved through Wayaki. Wayaki then was her savior, her black messiah. The promised one who would come and lead her into the light. Mathoni said she had seen Jesus. She had done so by going back to the tribe and marrying the rituals of the tribe with Christ, and she had seen him through suffering. She had been circumcised and said that she had become a woman. Nyambura too wanted to become a woman, but she could only be so if Wayaki talked to her. If she stood near her, then she would see Christ. Nyambura lived with her doubt. She would not recognize her feeling toward Wayaki as love. She told herself she did not love him because she did not feel towards him as she felt toward her mother or Mathone, but she saw him as something big, firm, and sure. If the earth collapsed, she could hold on to him and be safe. Sometimes she cried and asked God to forgive her. She still wanted to remain true to her father. She would obey him. After all, Wayaki was too far away from her, and he did not care for her. He was a teacher, a big leader. The only object of his effort were the many children all over the country who were not going to school. What then? Would such a man care for her? A man who had big things to think about. Would such a man associate himself with a girl who was not circumcised, a girl whose father led the other side? At such time she prayed that she might be true to her father. It was good for her to stay with him, to obey him instead of venturing into the dark unknown. Nevertheless, she was weary, and going to church was becoming a burden to her, especially in the company of her father. So she was always left behind, and she would always walk slowly. Slowly. Sometimes she would not go to church at all, and instead she would go to Honya River. There she would find peace. There she prayed to God and remembered her sister. Today she had felt depressed. Oh man. She would not go to meeting till she had passed through her favorite spot. She did not find any peace, but she knelt down. And while the river murmured down its course, she prayed with all her heart that she might find the peace and light she longed for. A pleasure numbness dulled Wayaki into immobility. He did not move, but leaned against the tree and watched the apparition. The girl was on the opposite bank in a flat clearing, hidden a little by a small bush. Wayaki could not tell why the pleasure reminded him so much of the sacred grove where long ago his father had taken him and revealed the ancient prophecy. This place she was in was a secret too. Let me read that again because this sounds odd. Okay. This place she was in was secret too. Was sacred too. Nyambura seemed to be bending over something, and Wayaki watched, held by desire to possess her. He moved a little. He could now see her clearly. She was kneeling down in a praying posture. He was fascinated. A kind of holy light seemed to emanate from her body. The place would forever remain sacred to him. A few yards away from here was the place where he had sat long ago, when being circumcised. It was the place where he had shed blood, red blood, as if it were needed to propitiate angry spirits. When Wayaki realized he was praying, he was moved. It was strange, and as he watched, he experienced a frightening sensation, as if she were together standing on an altar ready for a sacrifice. A grave atmosphere seemed to envelop the whole area, and Wayaki wanted to go away. He would not see her, not now. All he wanted was to run away from this, for he could not face it. He was confronted with a might, a presence far beyond him, and he now felt her beyond him. On the other side, he made as if to move away, unseen, but a dry crack of the broken twig betrayed him. She raised her head and saw him. Wayaki stood and looked at her. Nyambura still knelt. Their eyes met and they did not utter a word. Nyambura was afraid of the intense excitement that possessed her. Then Wayaki made as if to move again. And I am feeling afraid of her. Misunderstanding. As if the intense glare in their eyes would destroy him. He wanted to shake off the power she now exercised over him on this altar of sacrifice. But her excitement was growing to a breaking point, and she spoke to him, forcing herself to be calm. A note of defiance and challenge was discernible in her voice, and Wayaki saw that she had been crying. "Don't run away, teacher," she said. A pleasant shock went through Wayaki. and made his body hot with desire. She had actually called him teacher, a name no follower of Joshua would call him. Was there a mocking laughter in the voice? He could not tell. He waited for her patiently. Where are you going? She asked him. She had crossed the river. Boyaki felt confused. The question wrung the truth out of him. He had wanted to go round and see the place where he could watch the meeting at a distance in the hope of seeing her. I was just walking. I like the river, the bush, and the trees. I'm going to the meeting. I thought you would already be there. I was surprised to see you. I just wanted to pass through here. A pause. Then she laughed a little nervously. You see, I also like the river, the bush, and the tree. This is my favorite spot. Do you often come here? Sometimes I do, not very often. Oyaki was quiet. Another silence fell between them. His whole body was on fire. My sister was initiated there, she said abruptly. She made him feel guilty. You say, remember her? I cannot forget her. I loved her. Were you only two in your family? Yes. Now I am alone. I am also alone in my family. All my sisters are married. The youngest, whom I loved the most, died a long time ago. I was then young. Yamura felt pleased because of this exchange. Confidence. Fuyaki did not know what else to say. You will be late for the meeting. She did not move. Then quietly, as if speaking to herself, she said, she was brave. Very brave. Do you remember her? I do. Always. Her last words. Yes. And Ryuki's mind went back to the scene of a few years back when they had carried Methoni to Serenia, and he remembered her frail body. Oh man. Flashback incoming. And he remembered her frail body, her black shining eyes, and her last message to tell Nyamura to see. Tell Nyamura, I see Jesus. Now he could see her again clearly, and he remembered her agony. Oyaki always felt that Methoni had found something that filled her soul and made her endure everything. Methoni had tried to find salvation for himself, a sure ground on which to stand. Where did he stand? The yearning came back to him, expressing himself in a slow but mounting wave of desire. And he fixed his eyes on Nyambura, and for a moment he thought he could see Methoni in the night. Methoni, the night when they had met in the darkness. On the eve of the initiation, he took a step toward Nyambura and stood close to her. He took her right hand in his, and at once burst out, Nyambura, I love you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's official. We got a couple. It's official. It's official. It's official. Dun, dun, dun. Love is in the air. I felt it. I smelled it. I shot it in my veins. To be loved. I know all of you that are watching. I never experienced it. Neither have I. Yeah, I'm just gonna shut up and keep reading. It was really a whisper. Nyambura saw the light in his eyes, and for a second she was afraid. She could not believe her ears, but it was good that he loved her. She wanted to fall into his arms. She still feared, and now she felt a painful sorrow coming to her heart, as if from nowhere. A tear dropped down her left cheek. She did not try to hold it back for a second and fell on the right cheek. Oyaki pressed her hand, and she returned the pressure so that he felt he would die. In a blind moment of passion, he took her into his arm and pressed her close to his breast, while tears from her eyes fell to his shoulder. Nyambura did not resist but allowed herself to be held by him, the only man who could save her from her misery. Neither spoke. They were one. Oyaki thought this quest was over. Will you marry me? He whispered. Nyambura rested on his broad breast. She wanted to say yes. She longed to say this. It would cost her nothing, only her breath. Slowly she came to her senses. She disengaged herself from him. She was no longer crying, "Tell me, oh tell me," implored Wayaki. Hope and fear mixing together, there was another silence. "No," she said at last faintly. "I am going to kill myself. I am going to kill myself. I am going to actually." "What do you mean, no?" Oh my god. Why am I getting worked up for this, bro? Like, why am I getting worked up? I don't understand. What do you mean, no? It cost her a lot of effort to whisper this, but she knew she had to. It was impossible to marry him unless she rebelled. She didn't want to rebel like her sister. Wayaki felt hurt. "Why? Don't you love me?" "I do. I do," her heart said. "But can't you see we cannot marry? Can't you?" "Allow," she said. "Father will not allow it. I cannot disobey him. He knows that we have met before, through rumors." He was looking aside now. He could not see the tears that flowed freely from her face. If she continued, she would sob. It was better for them to part, but she wanted him, and it was painful to her that she had to leave. Quickly, she moved away before it was too late. She left him standing in the same position, staring at the same place. It pained her all the more, and she stood irresolutely. She knew she had to go. Nyambura, Nyambura, oh, she was gone. What had he wanted to tell her? He retracted his step and went home. Saying nothing, feeling nothing, he just walked. Tradition. You're okay. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna do this later. Let me just finish this. This is almost over. Camo came out of his hiding place, his eyes and soul burned with malice. He'll suffer for this, and this accumulated fury rose again. Wayaki. Camo had never forgotten the incident when Wayaki had humiliated him in the plains. He would never forget it when Camo knew that he hated Wayaki. He was now known as a teacher. Some said he would save the hills. Well, let him be their teacher, let him be their savior. Camo rejected him. This man had humiliated his father. Would Camo, after all these things, stand aside and watch Wayaki bathe him in love? No. Camo loved Nyambura. He had always wanted her. And Imakuyu he always hovered around, hoping one day to declare his love to her. Yet he had never had a good chance to open his heart to her. Today had been an excellent opportunity. He had meant to do it. He would have told her all by himself, and he was sure that she would have agreed to run away with him to Nairobi. Then this fool had to come. Camo had waited for him to go, but Wayaki had persisted in saying that he saw them embrace, and with intense pain he saw all he had feared confirmed before his eyes. Wayaki was his rival to death. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that will be the end of chapter 19 and the end of today's video, which is rather long. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. And let's dive into analysis before I do the closing bits. Right, okay. Would you rather, let me just angle this down a bit. Would you rather love pure, genuine, true from the bottom of your heart and the purest part of your soul, be in love with the man that is right for you, or your religion? Would you rather choose your religion or pure, genuine, God-sent love? What would you do? I mean, let me know in the comments if any of you decides to reach this part, which I doubt, because all of you only watch until 6 minutes dip. How do I know that? I have an analysis. All of you just watch the 6 minutes. So if you see this part, comment it down. Let me know what you would choose, pure, genuine love or your religion. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ivan. This was God, okay. Let me start again. My name is Ivan. This was The River Between. I hope you all enjoyed. With that being said, be safe, be good people. Bye.